Network presents exclusive coverage of the major indoor lacrosse league. From the Spectrum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it's the most exciting team of the 91 season, the Detroit Turbos, taking on perennial power Philadelphia. And all the excitement is around the Gate brothers. And this gentleman, Paul Gate, is all set to rewrite the single-season goal-scoring record. He comes in with 28 goals, and he will stand alone at the end of this game. It's an important game for both teams. Here is why. Detroit 4-1 lost last week. They must maintain that cushion above Pittsburgh. And look at Philadelphia. One game in the win column behind the tough team from Baltimore. They need this one in a big way. It's a very tough major indoor lacrosse league, and it's going to be close all the way down to the wire. That's why this game is so very important. Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Felsmo, along with Bill Baroza. Bill, we look at the visiting team from Detroit, the Turbos. What a sensational year they have had under the direction, under the skills of the Twin Turbos. But they had a loss last week to New York. It was a surprise loss, but that may be one of their big assets coming into tonight.
It is, Leaf. Detroit was up 8-1 in the first quarter, let New York creep back into the game. And I'll tell you, it was a shock to Detroit, but that's a good thing to happen, because now, coming into this game, they'll realize that they have to play better. They have to play a full 60 minutes, and they are vulnerable to be beaten by any team in this league.
Well, how about the roster? You've got Paul and Gary Gate. They can't do it alone. They proved that last week.
You're right. They can count on Peter Park. They brought in a new scorer this week, a guy named Brock, and they're counting on him for a couple goals tonight.
Now let's talk about the hometown Philadelphia Wings. There'll be 17,000 plus here at the Spectrum. They'll get a lot of support from them, but they need some scorers, and their two top guns are walking wounded. One won't even be here, Brad Kotz.
Yeah, I'll tell you, missing Brad tonight is a real loss for them, but they're going to have to go and count on John Tucker, as well as some of the other scorers that they have, Matt McGeady, and the whole staff of the Philadelphia Wings. But I tell you, it's tough playing in the Spectrum. And I really had trouble here when I played, and the crowd can make that big difference and be the seventh man out there on the field.
Well, we'll see if that seventh man really takes in the deciding factor for the Wings. They need this win desperately. They were shellacked when they played the same team in Detroit. Is it an important game for Paul Gate? Yes, it is. We talked about his potential tonight to break the single-season record books. What's it mean to him? Let's take a look.
Well, it means a lot to me, but not as much as winning games and hopefully winning a championship. I mean, personal accolades have always been secondary to, a team atmosphere and winning as a team. So it's important to me as an individual, yet not as important as winning.
A sensational team player, Paul Gate. He will lead that team against the Philadelphia Wings. We'll be back with the opening face-off in just one moment. Stay with us from the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Tonight's game is brought to you by Coors Light. No slowing down with the silver bullet. By U.S. Air, America's most frequent flyer. By STX. Revolutionize your game with STX lacrosse equipment. And by Winless, the official warm-up of the major indoor lacrosse league. To the Spectrum in Philadelphia. We are expecting a full house. That's around 17,000 fans that are very vocal for their defending champion Philadelphia Wings. Getting ready for the opening lineup. The Wings against the Turbos. The Turbos, the most exciting new entry. The Turbos have the new guys. That's the Paul and Gary Gate combination. They are fabulous. And this is a look at how graphically they are making an impression on this league. Kotz with most goals. That's a record that stands. Kotz with total points. Tucker, most assists. They are all in Philadelphia. Paul and Gary Gate attacking all those offensive records, and I expect each and every one of those to be broken tonight in only their sixth game of this season. The starting lineups for Detroit. It'll be Paul Gate, Lay, Suckamore, a lot of veteran there. The lineup, Paul Gate and Gary, Lemon, Sawicki in the goal. Philadelphia has Tucker, Gabrielson, Manley, DeSico, and Bresch. Eliuk starts there. Two Canadians in the goal. And when we talk about the goal, that is really a focal point for us, Bill Baroza. One of the things I remember from last week that will be a real feature of attention in this first quarter is how Ted Sawicki plays. He had a terrible game last week against New York. He's going to have to be sharp early on.
New York shot from the outside, but I'll tell you, Philadelphia is going to have to get inside on Ted tonight.
A lot of emotion in the Spectrum. to an 8-1 lead last week. Were beaten soundly by New York. Nobody thought it would happen. 4-1 now, and this division that they're in, the National Division, can get very close if they lose against the Wings. Detroit here in purple, first quarter action. The Philadelphia Wings in gray playing tough defense as the Turbos get the first face-off of this game. A little bit different than the first time these teams played. Detroit beat them soundly in Detroit. The two leaders, I showed you Kotz and Tucker graphically. They are the leaders. Kotz, Bill Baroza, not even in uniform tonight.
Now, Brad's a big loss for them, but I tell you, they'll go to Tucker. They've got some other scorers, and Scott Gabrielson and Matt McGeady as well.
The guy that is in uniform, a leader, John Tucker, he just came on the field, number 2. There he is with the ball. Watch his left shoulder, partially separated. A lot of pain. They didn't think he'd be here for this one. That's the guts that this player has. He's an All-American player from Johns Hopkins. He was on the world team this year when the United States beat Canada and Australia, and he is a leader on this team. Now Philadelphia bringing the ball down, looking for some offense. Denikin gets the ball in to Tucker, but the 40-second clock, the shot clock had expired. They lose possession.
I'll tell you, Lee, one thing we're going to look out for tonight is Philadelphia said they got to make sure they get back in the hole and play defense, and that's all they're concerned about. So you're going to see them just getting back on a shot by the Detroit Turbos.
Sinelli brings the ball down for Detroit as they set up their second offensive string. We're only about 2 minutes into the game. No score yet. Big game for Philadelphia. They are hurt. They are wounded. And Bill, when you look at the numbers, they don't score anywhere near the amount of goals that Detroit scores.
You're right. They're about 55 goals behind. But again, they played one less game.
Martin gets it in on the crease, and a shot missed by Mark Hahn. He was hit off the ball in that crease area by the Detroit defense. And once again, it's Sinelli who sets up for the Turbos.
That's Terry Martinello. Terry's wearing number 5 this evening for Detroit.
I was told that, and that quickly escaped my mind. You're right. They took his name off the back. His jersey, they had a problem with it. So that's Terry Martinello, number 5, instead of Sinelli. And it's Terry who's been in there since the opening whistle. His brother Ron on the same unit. This is a veteran unit. Terry now looking for a behind-the-back shot that tucks off the pipe. The follow-up saved again.
I tell you, one thing you see early in this game is Philadelphia's going to try to run Detroit because they saw that New York did that last week and did it successfully.
Detroit, this is their 3rd year in the league, and they have never been known, and of course, Bill Baroza, you played for this team last year, never been known as a fleet-footed team. Let's take a look at the goalies. Ted Sawicki had a terrible game last week by his own admission. He's a first-team All-Pro. He is one of the best in the league, the best last year. He had an off game last week. The other end of the field, it's going to be Eliuk. And Eliuk will be having the challenge of having the best game of his. He needs to have the best game in his life to keep Philadelphia close.
Well, we see a penalty coming up there, hit from behind by Adam Mueller, and Detroit on their first man down. Let's see how they do.
Another key to Philadelphia's success tonight, Bill, is them scoring on the power play. New York did it last week. Detroit is the most heavily penalized team in the league. You're going to get these chances. You've got to put the ball in the net.
Leaf, Detroit has the top 5 penalty minute, bad boys, whatever you want to call it, in the league.
So you get your chances to score on extra man, and you better take your shots and get the ball in the goal, especially Philadelphia, who probably has one of the weaker field offenses in the league. Another shot in on Sawicki, and he looks tough early on. It's Jeff Goldberg using the protection of the crease. He comes out. It's still 5-on-4. A player down.
That looks like Jack Sebastian from back here.
Sebastian for Detroit. Goldberg goes over to see what his status is. Take a break as Sebastian gets his wind back. No score. Jack Sebastian coming off the field for the Detroit Turbos. Took a heavy hit over there as the Turbos were playing man down, and now that gave them a chance to put some fresh legs in there. It'll still be 5 against 4, but this is Gary Gait going against 2 players. He's seen this before. Very tough to corral, even with 2 players. And there's Tony Resch coming in, a tremendous defensive player in the field game. Gary just trying to eat up the clock, use up the penalty. Now Paul comes in. This team is deadly, even a man down. And right now it's 5 players for Philadelphia against 4 for Detroit in purple. Paul Gate now. That did it for twin of Gary. They come in with 38 points, or 28 points, or goals, that is, I guess 38 for Paul, Help me out. I think it's 38 for Gary and 40 total for Paul. They're very, very close, and they lead the league in total points.
That's right.
The average is 40 and 38, and that's an average of about 8 points for each of these twins per game.
Right, and the next closest is Ricky Soul from Baltimore with a little over 5 points per game. So they have a commanding edge over everybody.
You carry a heavy load.
I'll tell you, that was an opportunity for Philadelphia to get a breakaway and a 2-on-0 there. But again, the Gates did it.
Paul lost the ball, but he fielded. Had to pick his stick back up and get it back. He did. Now it's a fast break coming down the other way. DeSico gets it over to the wing, and a shot by Martin is blocked at the last moment by Paul Gate.
You know what impresses me, Leaf, is Gary and Paul do it all over the field. Paul made a great defensive play there, broke up that 2-on-1, and that's what helped Teddy Sawicki out, preventing that goal.
Gary Martin just tried to feed it into Delgatti on the other end of the field. Delgatti took his eye off it, trying to eye up the shot. Gave the ball back to the Turbos. No score yet. That would be a surprise. 5 minutes into the contest.
I'll tell you one thing that's evident, Leaf, is you can see Detroit getting back. They're intentionally making sure that they get back and play good defense to help out their goalie.
And, of course, they're thinking a lot differently than they did before last week's game against New York. They came in with a little bit of a swagger. They were 4-0, and they were up on New York 8-1 before New York started putting together a ferocious offensive attack. Now Detroit has a little bit of a crack in that veneer, a little bit of hesitation, possibly a little bit of lack of confidence.
And every time a Philadelphia player takes a shot on the crease, Coach Mito Martinello said, I don't want anybody standing. You see them knocking them down.
Euler and Dan Pratt get the ball over to Sawicki, and he puts the ball up to Brock. Paul Brock from Western Ontario.
So this is Paul Brock's first game with Detroit, and he is a prolific scorer up in the Canadian League, so we should see some things from him tonight.
Ron Martinello gives it to Terry Martinello, and Terry took a shot that was saved by Eliud. Push call, the ball will go back to Detroit, and they're changing lines.
I'll tell you, Dallas Eliud was MVP a couple weeks ago, and he's having another fine game tonight.
Philadelphia keeping it very close. That's what they want to do. They want to keep this game well in hand. The Turbos have an explosive offense. They can make the game get out of hand very quickly. Loss of possession, but picked up by Conley. He loses it before McGady comes back and picks it up. McGady with the long hair flowing out of his helmet. Easy to find just for that reason. DeSico now brings the ball in. John Tucker now, the captain of this team. He is the inspirational force. Going with the John Reese from Yale, Mike Tyson look, short socks that is. Now DeSico takes it on the far wing. He's got the left hand lined up. 3 players play defense against him. Still has the ball.
And Andy DeSico's leading scorer at Rutgers when he played there just a year ago.
The DeSico brothers really helping to strengthen up the offense of that Philadelphia squad.
It's hard to believe we haven't seen a goal yet, and we've seen 7 minutes of play.
Shot clock expires. Philadelphia trying to use every bit of that 40-second shot clock. They lose possession that time by not getting a shot on the 4x4. You cannot just shoot the ball. You've got to hit the target. Ball comes into Gary Gate. He's tied up beautifully and close by Denikin, Paul Denikin. And now it's Tony Resch. John Tucker still on the floor. Tucker taking his time. This is his trademark lope. He comes up very accurate with the pass. Mark Hahn takes the shot, and a nice save by Sawicki.
I have seen Teddy make saves like that repeatedly over and over for the last 3 years, and I'll tell you, that is a tough save, but he just does it every game.
My partner Bill Baroza retiring this year from this Detroit squad. He knows them inside and out, and he knows how much this team relied on Ted Sawicki last year and the year before to keep them in the game. Fast break opportunity for Philadelphia. This is Paul Denikin coming down one-on-one. Sakamore's in front of him. Now Mark Hahn takes the shot off the pipe. That would have been a goal, but the pipe saved it for Sawicki. Philadelphia putting on some good, consistent offense. 7 minutes left. We're about halfway through the first quarter. Still no score, and that is the surprise so far. You've got to say, to this point, Philadelphia is happy.
Yeah, Philadelphia is very happy, and I'll tell you, they have a deliberate offense, Lee. They're taking their time. They're trying to use all the time on the shot clock because, again, they don't want to get into a running battle with Detroit.
Ricky Freed's on the field on the far side. That's Gary Martin from Penn State trying to get it. He loses the ball. Watch out. The galloping Gates coming down. This is Gary looking for the trailing player. Gary takes a shot. And that's the first score of the game. The great Gary Gait puts Detroit up by 1-0 with 6:28 left. Well, Gary Gait in the open field is as dangerous as anybody.
I'll tell you, that play started back on the defense. He picked up that ground ball, ran the whole floor, and just unbelievable shot.
First faceoff was controlled by Detroit. Let's see what happens here. They again get the faceoff. And this is Pratt from Syracuse. Of course, the Gait brothers, 7 times together, they were All-American players at Syracuse. Dan Pratt was an All-American defenseman there as well. Ron Martinello now, the coach's son, one of 2 on the team.
What you notice, Leaf, out there in Detroit is they use a lot of moving picks and a lot of picking for the guy with the ball.
Another hard shot in close. That's Adam Mueller from Michigan. And the pick is what set it up. We talked about it. He got a little bit of room and then really just bowled his way in for the shot.
Yeah, he just drove. And I'll tell you, he's a pure lefty. And didn't look like it was a great shot, but hit a corner. We see the shot again, and I tell you, that thing looked like it was going over the goal. Dallas Eliuk was a little bit surprised by that shot.
So Eliuk wishing he had that one back. The one for Gary Gait, you really can't fault him on. That one is one he'll save most often. Chris Flynn, who was very effective in the first meeting against these teams, not getting a face-off yet. Detroit gets their 3rd face-off in the first quarter. And the Turbos now lead 2-0, 5:40 left in the first quarter. Goldberg just dumps it back. Big Pete Park, the target he creates on the crease. Pete Park, Goldberg takes one. Conley knocks the stick away, and it's launched into the crowd. Let's keep an eye on Pete Park, number 9. He's a huge target, 6'5". He scored 3 goals the last time these 2 teams met. He was one of the big reaches. They got an early lead.
Yeah, Peter is a tough guy to stop. He's 222 pounds. And Philadelphia, one thing they're not doing is they're not matching up anybody player for player. Whoever's out on the floor is going to play one of the other Detroit Turbos.
Sweet Lou Delegati. He's got a great left-hand power move from that side. That's where he wants to work. But Detroit playing good defense. Doddridge there bouncing up. Look at Pete Park. Couldn't stay with the quicker player, John Conley. Shot clock down to 3, and finally they get it reset. Didn't get a great shot. They're really using that shot clock. You might guess by now that that is part of their strategy. Use the whole shot clock. The downside of that, Bill, is that they're not getting the good shot. They're forcing shots with 5 seconds left.
You're right, Leaf. Dave Evans has to be pleased with the defense that the Wings are playing. But again, they're going to have to start moving the ball on offense.
Lemon comes in, checked from behind. Great defense by the Wings to take him away from the shot opportunity. 4:20 left. First quarter, Turbos up by 2. Up behind the back, shot by Gary Gait. And possession maintained. Suckamore now has it. He was nursing an early leg injury. Looks to be healthy. Here comes Paul. Pulls his way right in. Left-handed shot. And no goal.
It looked like Dallas got a piece of that in the goal. There's that pick I'm talking about again. The Turbo comes down low, picks for him. They just move off of it, and it's a one-on-one with the goalie.
Well, the crowd started off very vocal, and they are starting to get a little bit frustrated by the 3 straight scores by the Turbos.
You saw him come off that pick. Dallas is going to have to play stand-up goal and not move as much as he has.
So Paul Gait now moves into sole possession of the single-season record, 29 goals, a league record, surpassing Brad Kotz of the Philadelphia squad, who is very visible by him not being here. He is an injured player, an injured leader on the Wings team. They are missing him tonight. 3-0, the Turbos. It was a long time before that first goal came about. It was about 9 minutes of scoreless lacrosse. And in the last 3 minutes, they've ripped off 3 goals, the Turbos have. Philadelphia, very patient on offense and maybe a little too patient. They've got to get some good motion. They like to use the whole shot clock, at least they have so far today, and have ended up forcing a few shots. Shot in close on Sawicki. The ball is saved. A follow-up, and no goal. In the crease is the call. A beautiful follow-up by Scott Gabrielson, who took the initial shot and followed it up.
That was one of the guys we talked about earlier that can do it for him. Teddy comes up with another nice save, but he's in the crease when he pulled that ball back away from Teddy Sawicki.
The knees had to be the one one that got him in the crease, and the knees were real close to the line. Very close call. Could be a factor in the game. John Tucker takes a shot that is deflected wide. We'll take a break. The Turbos lead 3-0, but still only in the first quarter. We're back at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Leif Elsmo and Bill Baroza. Bill, one of the questions we had coming in was Sawicki's mental outlook on this game. He was a little bit shocked last week by all those goals. He looks to be very strong and back on top of this game.
He looks fantastic so far tonight, and he's such a competitor that he's not going to let one game make a difference in how he plays the rest of the season.
At the other end of the field, but you know, as a goalie, sometimes you start questioning yourself a little bit. If he had taken a couple early goals, I suspect it would have really hurt him mentally. Not the case, though. He looks very strong. On the other end of the field, Eliud not having a great last 4 minutes.
Well, he just made one beautiful save on Peter Park, and we talked about Peter. He's a great target inside at 6'5", but Dallas came up big there.
That'll be Philadelphia's turn with 2 minutes left in the first period to get their first goal. And they need one big time. Ricky Freed right now in the first game, we saw him separate his shoulder. It's good to see him back out here. Number 13, working the offense against Sebastian.
What's really puzzling me, Leif, is that they keep this offense where they're getting one shot, and that's all they're taking. And again, it's not the best shot with 5 seconds running down on the time clock.
They got a reset there. Now they get the ball back. One-on-one in close. Tony Resch. 3-1. The Wings get their first goal.
One of the leaders of this team, Tony Resch, not known for his scoring ability, just was in the right place at the right time. He was on the USA team as a defenseman, and but again, doesn't matter who scores. The score is now 3-1, and that's the important thing.
Well, one of the marvelous things about this indoor league is that some of the great athletes that play defense, you being one of them, have come into this league and contributed in the offensive game of the Major Indoor Lacrosse League. None better than Tony Resch, showing his leadership right there, wearing the C on his jersey and putting the first goal in for Philadelphia. They get the face-off, very important face-off, behind the back feed, pressure on Sawicki, 2 fakes, and just wide of the goal.
I'll tell you what Teddy does so well is he holds his ground and he makes the shooter find an open spot.
Matt McGeady levels a check, and now it's Delegati on a foot race with Paul Gate. He's going to wrap him up, and he goes right for the head, does Lou Delegati. That may cost him time in the box. Detroit has not had a power play yet. We'll see if this costs him. No, they just give him
Leif, did you notice who the first guy down there to help out his brother was?
Gary comes hustling down to help Paul, but here's Delegati looking for a takedown. This would go in the World Wrestling League.
I'll tell you, he's probably just trying to make Paul aware that he's out there on the floor, and the first one to Paul's side was Gary.
The Gates have taken a ferocious pounding from the defenses of every team they face. Paul now loses a little bit of concentration. 2 players playing Paul Gate. They wrap him up, and here goes Philadelphia. It's a delayed call. It'll go against Philadelphia, and it will set Detroit up with their first 2-minute extra man play. Only 55 seconds left in this first period, so they'll have a minute here. If they don't get it by then, they'll have a minute to open the second quarter.
Well, we're going to get a chance to see one of the most exciting power plays in the league. And the reason I say that is it's a lot of behind-the-back, flashy kinds of things, but it's not that they don't do it well. They do it real well.
They start this power play with Gary Gate up top as the trigger man. He's got Martinellos on either end of him. Terry to his right, Ron to his left. Down low, you've got Paul. There's a shot by Terry. You've got Pete Park, and you've got Paul down right next to Eliud. They're sagging in the defense. This is Gary being wrapped by tough defensive play. Here's a shot in close by Ron Martinello. Ball loose and back out to Gary. Gary reloads, looks for help. He says, I got a
beautiful save. He was looking for that right-hand corner, and Dallas came up with a beautiful save there.
And with the velocity of that shot, if he doesn't get that shoulder up, that baby hits the twine. You've got to guess which side he's going to go. A tremendous save by Eliud. Eliud cutting down the angle a little bit and made a nice move to take it out. 24 seconds left in the quarter. 24 in the quarter, and still about a minute 30 left in the penalty.
This is a real smart move on Coach Martinello's part. What he's doing is putting the second power play unit. And I'll tell you why. The first unit's tired. If they lose the ball, they're going to have a tough time getting back on defense. And you can score with 2 seconds or 3 seconds left in this period.
This is Jeff Goldberg from the right wing. He'll take a shot there. Elliott makes the save. The defense tries to get it back. Resch can't handle it. Neither can Jeff Goldberg. Resch still tries to pick it up. 8 seconds left. Doddridge there, number 3 in purple for Detroit. Tony Resch barking at the referees. And they signal that it will be Detroit ball with 6 seconds left. Sycamore up top. This is Doddridge. He'll take a shot, and Eliuk again deflects the ball. That'll do it for the first quarter. They stave off the power play. A little fight breaks out. That won't affect the score, though, because at the end of 1, the Turbos take a 3-1 lead with goals by Gary and Paul and Adam Mueller. We're back in the Spectrum in Philadelphia. We talk about records falling in great numbers tonight. Here's the first one to go. It was a great move by Paul Gate, Bill.
I'll tell you, he drove off of a pick and just put it up in the corner, and we'll probably see that a couple more times tonight.
Now, that record was set in his 6th game early on, and it broke a record that took 8 games to achieve by the great Brad Kotz. Out with a broken hand, not here tonight, definitely hurting the Wings. But the Wings have a lot to be happy about. Here in the first quarter, they kept this team from Detroit scoreless for a lot of that quarter. 3-1, they're in the game. That was Neil Doddridge. Doddridge owns a private seat in that penalty box. He is one of the most penalized players in the league, and I think he's got a long one to sit out here. 7-minute penalty for Doddridge.
He does, and he's got 5 minutes for grabbing a face mask, and he is the league-leading penalty getter. And at the same time, I'll tell you, Coach Martinello will have a conversation with him when he comes off that penalty bench. He does not like being down.
Problem here, Elliott took that shot in the face. It went under his mask. He is down, and if he has to come out of this game, that will significantly hurt the defense of Philadelphia. A big, big blow to their defense. Watch the shot. It comes underneath his face mask, and literally gets under the face mask into his nose area. We'll have to find out how bad this injury is. A tough blow for a very tough defense from Philadelphia. Defense is critical to this team staying in the game.
Well, good sign is he's moving around and probably a little bit sore in there, Leaf, but
so we're hoping that he's okay. We look at the side. It's Gary Martin putting on the chin strap, getting ready for that offense to get back into it. He's strapping it back on. Eliuk, when you look at him without his helmet on, these guys in the goal wear so many pads. There's Eliuk. He's not a huge guy. You may look at him and think he goes about 230. That's not the case. Eliuk stands 5'10", 180, a very fit and trim athlete who has a lot of pads on because that's what it takes to play goalie in the Major Indoor Lacrosse League.
And you know, with all those pads on, Leaf, you can lose 7-8 pounds a game because of how hot it is underneath all that equipment.
That is one of the factors that plays on the win of every game. We'll have to see how much each offense takes out of these goalies because both of these teams would like to keep these guys in for 4 quarters. They'd like to see Eliuk, and they'd like to see Sawicki go the full way. Timeout called by Philadelphia right now as we look at John Tucker leading his team. We'll take a short break. A close game in Philadelphia. Detroit 2 goals up, but Philadelphia, through Tony Resch's goal, is the last team to score. Now John Tucker puts the ball in play. He fires down to Conley. Conley a one-on-one and a beautiful arm save by Ted Sawicki.
What really surprised me on that is Danny Pratt was not expecting that pass at all, and for being an All-American defenseman from Syracuse, he should have been waiting for that.
There was only one guy who could have pulled that ball down, and that was Pratt's man. Now Detroit floating shot, thanks to the defense of Philadelphia, picked up by Eliuk. And this is just after a timeout by Philadelphia to give Eliuk time to regain his thoughts. He was hit with a shot under the face mask.
I'll tell you what you see here is that the defense of the man-short team has to bring the ball over the midfield line in 10 seconds. So Philadelphia is under a lot of pressure to get that ball cleared.
Tony Resch, again, Bill, as you said, clearing the ball, and he's the guy that scored the last goal. He's really taking a leadership role. John Tucker running faster than he has in the last 10 years. That's not his style. He blitzed right down the field trying to get the fast break.
He's trying to create an odd man situation, and what that is a 2-on-1.
Tucker now comes off. Conley goes on to getting fresh players on the field. They want to get an open shot. Curry
Detroit's got the breakaway, Leaf. Teddy Sawicki didn't see him. Paul Gate was all alone.
All alone. Gary Gate got the ball, elected to hold it. Todd Curry was the only one in Philadelphia that knew the 40-second shot clock was counting down. Again, they lost possession on a shot clock violation.
Well, Philadelphia's now got the extra man, so they should be doubling that ball. I don't think they know that they have the extra man yet.
They're figuring it out right now because here comes the double team. But I'll tell you what, double teaming Paul or Gary Gate is really not any advantage. Paul Gate, number 19, right here. Now have the single season record for scoring. Taken off his wheels with a great check. And Philadelphia saying, all right, there's one way to separate the ball from this guy, and that's with the big hit, and they leveled it.
That was Mark DeSico, and what a beautiful hit.
The DeSico family really has fine-tuned the art of defense in the world of lacrosse. And that is one shot that you like to get. You get a full run up to a player with the ball. Here's Todd Curry, another player from Syracuse. Tucker from Johns Hopkins up close, and a shot off the crease.
That hit the top bar. You know, the uncanny thing, Leaf, is that Gary Gate just passed that ball back to Ted Sawicki. Didn't even look at him, just knew he was there.
The instincts really come into play for the Detroit squad. Just take a look at the hit that leveled Paul.
Gary did a great job beating two guys, and then Mark DeSico said, wait a second, you're not getting a goal on my guy.
When you're occupied with the ball, here's Curry trying to get a shot off. That sliding player gets a chance to sight the numbers and get a good three-step run. Ferocious hit. I must tell you that Paul Gate took a shot last week, one of the toughest shots he's had in the world of lacrosse, and knocked him goofy for a little while. Sometimes that affects a player for the rest of the season. Gary Gate comes in, two fakes. Eliuk is faked out, but makes the save, and Gary is wrestling in the corner. Those guys won't be any factor now as the ball goes to the other end of the field. Philadelphia has a chance to score. Up top is Tucker. They want to get it to him. Tucker does not get the ball. The shot from the wing. Mark Hahn takes it, and another save by Sawicki. Mark Hahn tries to dig it out. Tucker's the only one. Tucker's all by himself. This is control.
Leaf, this has to be one of the most physical games we've seen so far this 1991 season.
Sweet Lou Delegati. A score! 3-2. Philadelphia coming back.
That was just a slip-up in defensive coverage. He should have never been standing alone there all by himself for as long as he was.
Well, Delegati is a very physical player, and that's right. You don't give him that much room down and low. He's not going to hurt you outside. He likes to power in low. He's got a great left hand. But Detroit is being preoccupied with the physical play of Philadelphia. They are really taking it to the Turbos.
And I'm looking forward to the second half because I think the legs on both these teams is going to make it a real exciting game.
Chris Flynn facing off for Philadelphia against Monty for Detroit. And again, Detroit gets the face-off. They have been excellent in that department. But once they get it in the offensive end, you cannot go back into the defensive end. That's what happened. The violation gives Philadelphia the ball.
Well, I'll tell you, Leaf, we still got a man in the penalty box. Neil Dodger's in there for a little over 3 minutes now. So Philadelphia still has some time to capitalize on this extra man.
Talked about how critical that would be to their victory if, in fact, they can make it work. They've got to score goals when they get the power play. This is one of those chances. Dodger's putting his team from Detroit into a big hole. Paul Gate now sees two defensive players, so he peels back. He's triple team. Still has the ball. Chris Flynn now picks it up. The All-American from University of Pennsylvania right here. This is his home crowd. He was a great football player and lacrosse player, and he can't quite get the shot off.
Patty Lee helped out on that. He hustled back and broke up that 3-on-2.
Ball being scrummed for in the corner. Finally picked up by Mark Hahn, one of the older players in the league. He's still got sensational speed. Adam Mueller with a little bit of a roll move, and let's see, we've got a whistle and a timeout. Vito Martinello says, look, this looks a little bit raggy to me. Let's call a timeout. He does just that. 9:56 left. Detroit holds on to a 3-2 lead. Lou Delegati got the Philadelphia Wings back to within one, and this is how he did it. A patented Delegati power move.
Well, he was right on the crease, and I don't know who the Detroit player was. We were blocked there out of view, but he was too many steps away from him. Should have been there closer.
And Sweet Lou Delegati, there he is, a tremendous scoring threat for Philadelphia. They need all the scoring threats they can get. Gary Gait comes in, and what a sweet move. Fakes the left hand, comes around with a backhand left shot, and he had Eliud all over that net, not knowing where the shot was coming from. Gary Gait with a shot that only he and his brother can do.
He looked like he shoveled that thing in backwards. Comes in lefty, pulls it to the other side, and just backhanded it in there.
Tremendous shot by Gary Gait. Put Detroit up by 2 again. Now Paul has 1 goal. Gary, that's his 2nd of the night. 2-goal lead now as we are 9:48 left in the 2nd quarter. Plenty of time left.
And that was a shorthanded goal as well. So even though Detroit's got a man in the penalty box, Detroit scored with 1 less player on the field.
And don't forget, that was after a timeout. Mito Martinello got his guys calmed down. He said, look, let's put that ball in the stick of Gary and Paul, and let's let them get some open green area. That's what happens when you're man down. You get a little bit more green space, more bodies on you, but you get more chances to shoot.
Well, Detroit's got their defensive guys out there right now.
This is Philadelphia's power play. Tucker, he's a quarterback up top, and a shot in close. Boy, that was one they'd like to have back. Paul Denikin missed the net. Delegati fighting with Sebastian behind the net. That won't draw any penalty. Paul Denikin had a shot right on the crease, missed the 4x4. Actually 4x4.5 this year.
Well, the defensive players for Detroit did the job. They stopped them, got the ball back, got it cleared, and now Detroit put their offensive machine back on the floor.
Here comes Terry Martinello, a tremendous shooter, and coming off the side, it was easy pickings against Eliud. Goal number 5, a 3-goal lead for Detroit. 9:07 left, 2nd quarter. We pick up action at the Spectrum about 5 minutes later into the 2nd quarter, just after a goal by Paul Denikin. It's 5-3 Philadelphia now after the 2 goals by the Turbos. Gary Gait scored, Martinello scored, Terry, and now 5-3 with a great drive by Paul Gait. Let's take a look at the Denikin goal that got them back to within 2.
I think they hadn't been down shooting on Teddy Sawicki for so long, Leaf, that he probably got just a little bit lackadaisical.
I think also a factor in that the play before that, Bill, Sawicki was out. He was running around the sidelines. He was playing the ball on the perimeter and really got a little more tired than he normally would. Probably not quite settled yet. Tamburino comes over. Rich Tamburino, one of the referees. And I think we're going to have somebody else take a little spin to the box. Philadelphia players walking that way. It's hard to tell who.
And this game keeps going back and forth.
Look at this crowd. This is an unbelievable arena for the game of major indoor lacrosse. 17,000 expected here today, a sellout. They've got over 8,000 season tickets. They love the indoor game, and they love the Philadelphia Wings, 2-time defending champions. Bill, you talked about playing in this arena. It's quite awesome.
It is, it's tough to play here. This crowd is loud, and you can hear it down on the floor. And it's hard to hear your other players giving you commands when the fans make a lot of noise down there.
Terry Martinello, this is a power play in close. What a save by Eliud. They made 3 passes. It was Ron Martinello to Terry Martinello, number 5. They got it into big Pete Park, and Pete Park at 6'5". When he gets it, it's Eliud who makes a save.
I'll tell you, Terry Martinello had a chance for a one-on-one, and I would have counted on that thing 100% going in by Peter Park. But again, he should have shot it right away instead of holding on to it for as long as he did. Elliott came up with a beautiful save, and we've got a Philadelphia wing going to the bench.
Chris Flynn, face-off specialist, goes into the box. Could be a bench penalty. Could be the in-home. We'll have to find out. It's 5-on-4, which it has been in that last series. Eliud makes the save. The ricochet goes in, and that shot had such velocity that getting a piece of it didn't matter. That ball went in 6-3. A 3-goal lead once again for the Turbos.
Ron Martinello is one of the leading scorers in the league as well as on the Turbos, but they're letting them come in too close. They've got to get out and pressure the shooters on the point. But I guess at the same time, Leaf, they don't want to pressure. If they pressure the points, then that leaves it open on the crease for Peter Park and for Gary Gait.
Well, you talked about the explosiveness of this power play. It's one of the most feared in the league as we look at Ronnie Martinello. Who do you cover and how do you cover him? It's just so many ways to turn when they have the advantage. It's scary. And Philadelphia electing to drop in, pack in a little bit. Didn't work that time. They're really putting the pressure on Eliud. He made the first great save, not the second. 6-3 now the score. And all 3 goals scored in this quarter by the Turbos were not at even strength. They scored their first 2 man down, shorthanded, with Doddridge was spending that 7 minutes in the box. The last one they were man up. John Tucker in close to Gabrielson, and what a save by Sawicki.
Teddy's stopping them low, he's stopping them high, he's stopping them wherever they're shooting. And one thing Philadelphia is going to have to start doing is they're going to have to start using picks better. Again, a good play there.
Sweet play. Tucker gets the attention and dishes it inside, and when the defense starts sliding. There again, Tucker finds the man. He does it as well as anybody. That is one of the reasons Tucker is a feared player in this league. He can shoot and he can feed. You never know which. He's exceptional at both. Tucker looking for some help. He's calling the sideline, but now he stays in because the fast break was running right by him. Pete Park against DeSico. Park inside to Rodriguez, and another great save by Eliud. Eliud coming up very strong in the second quarter. Gary Gate, interference they're calling. Ball goes back to Philadelphia.
Coach Evans has to be pleased with the performance of Dallas Eliud so far.
The question is, how far can he go, Bill? Can you put up this much? He's really been extended in the second period. He's working hard. And as you talked about, you're losing pounds of weight. You're losing a lot of fluids. You just can't go 4 quarters at that pace.
Well, that means the rest of the team's going to have to pick up and help out. And they're going to have to get a couple goals.
McAvoy takes a hard shot wide of the net.
They only have 5 seconds left on the shot clock, Leaf.
They're going to lose it.
Looks like it's going to be turned over.
Free with a great little dish move. He tries to put one on. He does! And it goes in! Ricky Freed was just trying to reset the shot clock, and Sawicki was not ready for that one at all. That cost him dearly.
Well, I have to apologize to the fans. I said that it looks like they're going to turn the ball over. And again, shot that thing with 1 second left. It might have been a little bit of a screen, or it might have been tipped in.
His own player really got in the way of Sawicki. His own player sort of stood right in front of the shot, picked up his foot at the last moment, and just distracted Sawicki enough. 6-4, the Wings back to within 2 again. I got to like their position. If you're Evans, Dave Evans, the coach of Philadelphia, coming in here with a potential blowout, you really have to wonder about his defensive strategy. It has worked so far. He's taken the air out of the ball, slowed it down. Ricky Freed, that's his 3rd goal of the season. And again, the first time we saw him play against this same Detroit squad, he was taken out with an injury, a severe injury to the shoulder. It's good to see him back playing, and he makes a big contribution here in the first half. That goal, here's Sweet Lou Delegati. Philadelphia gets the faceoff. Chris Flynn stays in there. He's the faceoff specialist. That's him right there. John Conley above him. Flynn takes a hard shot from outside. Controlled by Todd Curry, All-American from Syracuse. Cutting John Conley right down the cylinder, but a save by Sawicki.
Yeah, Adam Mueller got that ball. He started that break. Here's a guy from Michigan State University who, questioned whether or not he'd make the team a couple years ago. And he's just playing very well for him. Started that break and again ended with Terry Martinello scoring, I think, his 2nd goal of the evening.
Martinello scores the 2nd of the last 3. It's been Ron and Terry for the last 3 goals, and what a fast break they led right there. It was Ron on the far side. You see his legs at the top of the screen. He drew the attention. Watch, he'll draw the attention and dish it off.
Yeah, Terry's a natural lefty, and again, when you move a goalie from one side of the goal to the next, it's open game for shooting there, and Terry had the whole goal.
So Philadelphia having a tough time getting to closer than 2 goals. Every time they get one, the Turbos answer. Tucker finds the corner. 7-5. Philadelphia comes back.
Well, you talked about John Tucker doing it all. What a beautiful shot. And again, that probably was from looking at the game films of the New York game last week. They said they know that they can score from the outside on Sawicki, but you got to hit the corner. And that's exactly what he did there.
When you think about it, as we look at John Tucker, you think about the last 3 goals for Philadelphia, they were all kind of weird. And the fact that they're goals that Sawicki normally saves 9 out of 10 times, they're not that difficult. That shot by Tucker was certainly not difficult. Ricky Freed was a joke. And then Paul Denikin had a weird shot to go into Sawicki. So you got to wonder about Sawicki. Is he up to par?
I think Teddy's playing a great game tonight. I wouldn't discount him at all.
We'll see how it lasts. Eliud has come on stronger in this period. Sawicki has let in a few goals that he normally doesn't do. He is an all-pro, first-team all-pro goalie. One 2:26 left in the second quarter. 7-5. The Wings hanging on to this game. Here's Doddridge in close against Eliuk, and he is knocked off his position by DeSico.
Well, Detroit uses that bench play very well. What they do is they send a guy right to the defensive end of the box, and that's where the players are, and send a guy out, and they pick up about 5-6 yards on the Philadelphia team.
Gary Martin takes a shot. Bounced out. I haven't seen the Gates on the field too much lately. Maybe Mito Marnell saving them. Timeout called by Philadelphia. They have possession. They have 32 seconds on the shot clock. 51 in the quarter. That's for the first half. They're down by 2. They'd love to get a goal right here. Let's take a look at next week's Game of the Week on Prime Network. We're going to Pittsburgh, and the New England Blazers, last year's surprise team, the Cinderella team from last year. They were the regular season co-champion. Actually champion by way of tiebreaker. They are going against the Pittsburgh Bulls. The Pittsburgh Bulls, that'll be our game next week. The Pittsburgh Bulls, Bill, are the team that has a chance, if any team does, of catching the Detroit Turbos. And here, Mito Martinello, a little bit concerned because his team is only 2 goals up in the indoor league. That's basically a tie game.
Yeah, you're right. It could go either way. And that's why I said earlier in the game, I said I'm anxious for the second half because Detroit is not the fastest team in the league, and Philadelphia has some speed. That might be able to take them over the top and be to their advantage in the second half of this game.
Well, they've saved themselves a little bit because they have had the tempo going much to their liking. Now they've called a play. What do you expect to see here?
Well, it's interesting because Mito Martinell, last time he called one, Detroit came right back. Again, shorthanded and scored. And I would think there's going to be some pick. And that's what they did. They tried to get Tucker open off a pick. They just missed the pass on that.
Well, Curry was the feeder, and Curry normally isn't in that position. Normally it is Tucker. Ryan Lemon, the Canadian, out front. Here's Paul Gate in close, and it comes off the pipe. Eliud gets help from the cylinder of that cage. Still Detroit with the ball. So Philadelphia has sort of put a little wrinkle in their offensive end of the field, and it was Todd Curry who had a bad pass to a John Tucker, normally the feeder. Ball loose. Todd Curry picks it up.
They've only got 5 seconds left.
They have to get a shot off. Curry will come right down and take it. 3-2 from the wing. Saved by Sawicki. That's the way it'll stand after the first half. The Turbos holding on to a 2-goal lead, but 1 whole half left to go in Philadelphia. We're back at the Spectrum in Philadelphia for the Coors Light halftime report. And at the half, the Detroit Turbos, coming in heavily favored, lead 7-5 over the 2-time defending champion Philadelphia Wings. It'll be a dogfight to the end. You know, one of the biggest announcements of the year out of league headquarters of the MILL in Kansas City happened this week when they announced the addition to their staff of the general manager and vice president, Rick Nichols. They wooed him away from the Houston Oilers of the NFL. He will make a great contribution to this league, and we had a chance to talk to him earlier today. And I guess the first question we all would ask you, Rick Nichols, is what do you expect to bring to the MILL from the National Football League in this first year and on down the road?
Well, first of all, I'm really fortunate to be here because the 2 owners of the league, Russ Klein and Chris Fritz, have done a great job of setting it up and nurturing the league to the point where it's ready to grow. The league employees and the club employees have done a good job of bringing it again to the same level. So I'm in a position to help guide its growth and bring in some new sponsorships, look at some other areas such as expansion. We want to look at improving our good relationships that we already have with the different venues. We have a lot of different things in our plates, but I hope that my experience in the National Football League will help upgrade the credibility of the league, help us in promotional avenues, and just generally improve the image throughout the country.
Now, you've seen the NFL. We all know what that's all about. We love that as an entertainment vehicle, as a sport. From what you've seen, and I realize that this is your first week on the job, as it were, from what you've seen of this great indoor sport, your comments?
This sport is so fast-moving, so fast-paced. It's one of those run-em and crunch-em kind of sports, and it's really enthusiastic. I like it. I like the players. They don't play for the megabucks. They play for the love of the game, and I think it shows on the field here. And I think that's going to translate. I think what we have to do is educate the consumer and show them what an exciting sport it is. It's going to take a little time to increase that fan base, but I don't think as long as some people think. I think this is the sport of the future. It's definitely one of the fastest-growing sports, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Well, our thanks to Rick Nichols, one of the most positive things that has happened to the Major Indoor Lacrosse League this year. We're back at the Spectrum with our Coors Light halftime report. There's the score, 7-5. Very surprisingly close game. And no surprise to Bill Barroza. He's seen this Philadelphia team over the years. They are a veteran team, a team that really rises to the occasion when they have to. And I think that's exactly what they're doing tonight.
They are. They're playing very well. They start off slow, but a 7-5 game, Dave Evans has to be pleased with that performance. They're counting on the play of Dallas Eliuk in the goal, and he's coming up big for them. So I think their legs in the second half will help them.
Tempo has been a big part of it. Let's take a look at some of the scoring in the first half. Of course, the Gate brothers a big part of it. Paul Gate set the new single-season scoring record on this left-handed goal to give him 29 for the year.
You see that play over and over again, Leaf. He just drives to the goal. Again, an overhand shot right in the corner.
And then John Tucker, who is the leader of the Philadelphia squad, has been every year he's been on this team. This is the goal that made it 7-5. That's how it ended in the halftime. What a rocket shot from out front. And that's what makes Tucker so dangerous. He can take that outside shot. He can work inside, as we saw Dave Evans try to set him up to do earlier on. And he's a quarterback. He can feed from anywhere.
He does make a difference on this team, Leaf. And I tell you, that shot sitting up here in the booth, I saw it. I thought that was going into the stands, but I think so did Teddy Sawicki.
What do you look for the second half?
I look for the same. Yeah, but I tell you what I look for is the same thing, but I think Philadelphia is going to come out with their legs, and I expect them to run on Detroit.
That's going to be the story. It'll be the speed of the players taking its toll. We'll be back with the third quarter action from our Major Indoor Lacrosse League. Well, here are how the stats show up for the first half action, and look how even they are, Bill Barroza.
It's right on target. That's why the score is 7-5. Both teams are just playing equal, and both goalies are hot and cold, but they're coming up with a lot of one-on-one saves.
It was Sawicki starting off red hot. Eliuk playing the second quarter red hot. There's your score, 7-5. And it was a very busy second quarter. The game really didn't get going. About 9 minutes into the game, that's how long it took before Gary Gate got the first score, 3 straight by the Turbos. And then it was Tony Resch who answered. That was the first quarter scoring, 3-1. And let's take a look at the goalies, Eliuk and Sawicki. That's Eliuk. We saw Sawicki, number 30 for the Turbos in purple. The same goalies that started the game. We talked about that, Bill. Both of these teams like to go as far as they can with these two players. They are that good.
Well, I'd count on them, and if I was coaching, I'd do the same exact thing. They're both playing well, and you got to go with your best guy.
Ted Sawicki, first team All-Pro.
It's getting physical down there, Leaf. It's getting real physical.
They are rock'em sock'em. That's Gary Martin hitting in there, cross-checking. And it looks like he may spend some time in the box. They're going to take 2 players, Martin and Paul Gate. Now, that may be a tactic. Go ahead. If you can put Paul Gate in the box, he's not going to score very many goals. So Martin and Paul Gate will be simultaneous fouls.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would trade Paul Gate for Gary Martin out. You know, the leading scorer in the league is now sitting on the bench with Gary Martin, certainly someone that can score, but more so a defensive player for the Philadelphia Wings.
The simultaneous fouls will allow these teams a 4-on-4 opportunity.
But one thing I noticed, Leaf, it wasn't just Gary Martin and Paul Gate going at it. It was Tony Resch with Gary Gate as well. So it might have been a tactic that they were going to try with both of them.
So they're really trying to step up the physical play to occupy the Twin Turbos.
And the difference now, Leaf, is we got a 4-on-4, and I think that's to both teams' advantage, but more so Detroit. It opens up the field, and when Gary's got the ball, it's going to allow him to beat his man and go cleanly to the goal.
And they have another Canadian out there, number 25, Brian Lemon for Detroit. He is an excellent open field player. He'll be dangerous if he gets his possession. Now, Pat Lee gets the ball for Detroit. Comes in. A good check from Ricky Freed behind him. And Freed picks up the ball again.
Well, Patty Lee is not an offensive threat. I mean, he's out there for his defensive abilities. He should have pulled away with that ball and given that to Gary.
Didn't look tremendously fluid in the fast break, but good hustle by Pat Lee. Now it's Philadelphia. They each have a player in the box. It's 4-on-4 right now. Ricky Freed up front. Tries to get it into Manley.
We call that the Peterborough pick and roll, and they executed that well, except the pass just didn't hit the man.
In this case, the man Lee. Greg Manley inside trying to pick it up.
They're using the same tactics Detroit used on them in the first half of the game. And it's a great play.
Hey, Bill, we'll see now if Gary Gay can really take advantage of that extra green space. He didn't look like he was anxious to go ahead and go shoulder to shoulder with the defense.
I think he's been out there a while. He might be a little bit tired.
Vito Martinello relies on the great ability of the Gate brothers, so they do spend a lot of time on the floor. Early in the third period, 7-5, the Turbos lead with Philadelphia threatening here. They've had the ball most of the third quarter. This is Van Pratt gives it to Terry Martinello. No wheels on this unit. They keep him in there. Pratt coming down. Mueller's way down the field along with Ronnie Martinello. Knocked down. Let's see if they can work against that.
He's got a 3-on-2 right now.
McGady over to Delegati. All the way across, back to McGady. A fake and a score. Detroit did not have a fast unit on there. They elected to keep him on when they went into transition, and they paid the price. 7-6. Philadelphia back to within one.
I'll tell you, 3 different players touched the ball, and they did a great job and moved out the goal for him.
7-6. The Wings are coming back.
Here we see the goal again by Matt McGady. He had plenty of time to score that, and again, they just unselfish in passing the ball.
Really moved it well against a unit that was out there for a while. It was interesting. We talked about it. They started to move from defense to offense, and they did not switch the lines. That line for Detroit was a little bit tired playing defense against a very unselfish offense for Philadelphia. Trying to hit Lou Delgado on the far pipe. Matt McGady comes on. Ball moves over now to McGady. He just scored the last goal. Interesting to note, 6 goals for Philadelphia, Bill DeRosa. 6 different players with those 6 goals.
Well, when you don't have Brad Cox on the floor, you got to count on some other players.
Todd Curry's one of them. 7 goals, 7 players scoring in a tie ball game.
Oh, besides Todd Curry scoring that goal on a nice bounce shot, I think when Teddy went down to make that shot, it actually hard to see, but it probably went through his legs. That's what happened. Opened up. Those 2 goals, last 2 goals are 45 seconds apart. So in this MILL game, you see a high scoring, a lot of scores.
All tied up. The Wings have scored the last 3 goals. They've scored 4 of the last 5 goals to get back to a deadlock. Bill DeRosa, you might have been standing alone by yourself before this game, saying that it was going to be a close one. There was every indication in the pregame buildup that Detroit, being burned last week, would come in hell-bent for a big win. They have a sensational offense, and so far Philadelphia has really done what they've had to do. They've controlled the tempo and taken advantage of some very select opportunities.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, a difference maker is this crowd of 17,000 plus people. I mean, they certainly help the Wings, and they don't want to lose at home.
I'll tell you what, the crowd doesn't get tired as the game goes on. They get better as the game goes on. Ball pushed into the wing, picked up now by Eliuk. He looks immediately for the fast break, and the outlet is not there. The defense was packing it back in. It was Suckamore, and now Philadelphia changes the line. Here comes Johnny Tucker, comes in, ducks it into the Gabriel Sin, and he can't get it past Sawicki.
One thing Detroit's doing is they're getting back in the hole, and I'm sure Coach Martinello told them, guys, do not be lazy. After we take a shot, we got to turn, get back in so that we don't give up fast breaks.
Here's a line that's been very effective. Ronnie Martinello 6, his brother Terry Martinello number 5. They've scored that combination the last 3 goals for Detroit. So the Gates are really been taken out of the game since early in the second quarter. Ron Martinello pushes it in deep. Mark Hahn plays defense. Good body position. Now the moving pick sets up Terry wide open, looks for the feed, and the shot clock expires. We'll take a break. Game's all tied. We're 10 minutes left in the third. We join you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia later in the third quarter. We left you 7-7. Gary Gait took his Detroit Turbos ahead 8-7. Then Pete Park, man down for Detroit, made it 9-7. And Lou Delgatti just scored the 8th goal for Philadelphia to bring Philadelphia back to within 1. 9-8 is where we are. 5:50 left in the third. Lee Felsbo along with Bill Baroza. And look at the Gary Gait power as he comes through 2-3 defensemen.
He does that constantly. And I tell you, Philadelphia is defending him well today. The one thing that I said that I thought I'd see in the second half was a fast-breaking Philadelphia team, and we're not seeing that.
Matt McGady and Sawicki makes the arm save. Philadelphia now, 1 goal down, checking hard in close, and a shot by Chris Flynn is saved by Sawicki again. Sawicki looking very sharp in the third quarter. 5:16 left in the third. 9-8. Detroit up by 1. And McGady with a nice check from behind. He's looking for help. He's looking for the lob. Pulls it in. Watch the check as he gets it along the sideline by Dan Pratt. A lot of pushing, a lot of shoving. I imagine the fourth quarter is going to be brutal physically.
Oh, I'll tell you, it's been brutal already. Here they use that pick again.
And they get a piece of it, though, and that's what they've been successful at. They get a piece of the shot and keep them from getting that clean shot at Dallas Elliott. The Gates are out there for a little while now. They've been running hard and long. Gary Gait got the 3rd goal of the game for him. He's got a hat trick already. But other than that, Paul hasn't scored since the first quarter. Here's Paul now. Gets the ball for the Turbos. 4:25 left, third quarter. Philadelphia, the 2-time defending champion team, fighting for not only respectability because they were spanked by this Detroit team in Detroit earlier this year, but they've got to keep pace with the Baltimore Thunder in their division. Terry Martinello, sensational move. He's got a great stick. He came in with that left hand.
Yeah, but I'm surprised he took a shot from the left-hand side of the goal, because what you do is you continue as you run left on the goal, you cut off your own angle, so he shot with nothing to shoot at.
Now he's a little bit tired. Let's see if they work against him defensively. Tucker, hard shot, and Johnny Tucker brings Philadelphia back to a 9-9 game.
That's the guy you count on.
I tell you, he can thread needles from 20 yards. Watch this shot.
You know, that was the second one went through Ted's legs.
So Tucker brings back the Wings to a tie game. We regain action in the third quarter, 1:30 left, 9-9. John Tucker scored the last goal, but look at this. He's defending his team, his championship, against the great intruder, Paul Gait. One of the twin Turbos comes in. John Tucker, captain, with a separated shoulder, goes against, physically, the Gait combination. They both are now in the penalty box, and that was right before the Turbos scored the 10th goal. That got them 2 minutes in the box, and then just moments ago, this is the goal with Gary setting it up.
Well, Gary brings it down, feeds it to Pete Park all alone on the crease. And Pete's so good on the crease, you don't want to give him that much time to just fake the goalie and make a move out of position.
And Manley was a little bit late on the slide. You got to move that big guy out of there. He's 6'5", 220. And as you mentioned, you give him that much time, no way you can stop the shot. So Park gets another goal, second in a row, to put Detroit up by 1. A lot of time left, though. The third quarter winding down, but a whole 15 minutes fresh for the fourth. And this thing will be a dogfight. Detroit reloads their offense. Park now way out front, but he'll end up down around the crease. This is Jeff Goldberg, acquired from New York last year. Goldberg likes to shoot from there. He's a natural righty. That's where he likes to be. Looking out front, takes one with little or no angle, but gets the rebound, and a great save by Eliud.
What a save by Dallas. Boy, I'll tell you, that save was key. If Detroit had gotten that just before the close of this third period, Leaf, I think that might have broken the camel's back. 47 seconds left in the third period.
And let's watch this. Tremendous save. And Bill Barroso, you know full well, you're an All-American goalkeeper at Roanoke, and you started in this league as a goalkeeper. You played the last 2 years being an exceptional athlete, if I can pat you on the back, on the field position. You played the offense, but you know what Dallas has to go through. Now you're at the end of the third quarter. You're entering the fourth. You've lost that 5-6 pounds of water. It's getting tough.
Oh, yeah. You're tired there, and you hope and want that your offensive players will get some goals for you.
There's your quarter clock. Turbos with a slim lead, and Goldberg comes in again. He has a chance to score. Philadelphia doing a nice job, though, of tying up the big offensive threats and letting Goldberg shoot.
We have under 20 seconds to go right now, and Philadelphia has a chance to tie it up.
Chris Flynn bounces one off the pipe. Tough break for Philly. Then takes a shot into Doddridge. Chris Flynn really upset. He comes down on a fast break, had the shot, beat Sawicki. At least he got him past it, but the pipe saved Detroit. And Chris Flynn just missed getting the tying goal. 15 seconds left in the third. Plenty of time for Detroit to get a good shot and a goal. Let's see now. Rich Tamburino coming over to the bench, and he sets the ball in play. Clock now moving. Martinello puts it in play, and a diving shot from the far side. Back up to Ronnie Martinello, and he takes one well out in front. The shot clock not a factor, and the clock winds down the third period. Whoa, that'll do it as we move toward the fourth. 10-9, Detroit holding on to that slim lead.
Silver bullet won't slow you down.
Our Prime Network exclusive coverage of the Major Indoor Lacrosse League continues next week at Pittsburgh. It'll be New England, the New England Blazers against the Pittsburgh Bulls. And the feature there, among other things, will be Joe and Mark Gold, two of the best players in this league, playing against each other for the first time in their life. And these guys are sensational players in the Major Indoor Lacrosse League. Pittsburgh with a chance to catch the Turbos. The New England Blazers really forced to win to have a chance to get into their division hunt for the championship. 17,000 plus. It's a sellout here in Philadelphia, wanting the Wings to go ahead and beat this seemingly unbeatable team from Detroit, and they are very close to having that chance. They're only down by one, Bill. This, I would say, is a great spot, and a spot that Dave Evans would love to be in right here. 1 goal down, entering the fourth.
Oh, I'll tell you, if he can hold this to a 1-goal lead, Philadelphia can come back and win this thing.
Terry Martinello rocked twice, but has enough left to get the ball off to Brock, and moves up to Ronnie Martinello. And Terry takes a shot, and he immediately is leveled by Gabrielson. Now Mueller with the ball on the wing. This is the Martinello line, so in the fourth quarter, the gate line taking a breather. Ronnie Martinello moving over, switching sides with Terry. Terry now comes back in. Terry gets a blow. He's coming off. Rodriguez will come in. Ball checked away. Good defense by Tony Rich.
Yeah, Philadelphia's playing very good defense, and Detroit's not doing what they were doing in the first half, using the picks well.
Philadelphia mauling the inside play, just not giving him any room. Really playing physical, more physical than they have all year. Look at Tony Resch, totally exhausted and close. A behind the back shot. Saved by Eliud.
That was just a beautiful setup by Armando Rodriguez, looking for Ronnie Martinello, cutting back door. But again, Dallas making a big save there.
The exhausted player was Gary Martin, number 33 from Penn State. He comes off that sensational defensive unit led by Martin and Resch. They come off. Now the fresh offensive legs come onto the field. Conley now with the ball for McGeady. McGeady, the free spirit. Conley, the MVP from last week's win. Down to Todd Curry, great All-American from Syracuse. Played 1 year with the Gate brothers. Comes around the goal, little or no angle, and bounces one for the corner. Misses it. The shot clock did not hit the 4x4, so the shot clock did not reset. They lose possession.
And the bad thing for Philadelphia is they're only getting 1 shot on goal and then turning it back over to Detroit. They've got to take a shot earlier, hope to get a rebound, and then take advantage of 2 and 3 shots on goal.
And now if that tempo situation has worked for you, here's Pete Park. This is what he likes to do. He gets himself positioned beautifully on the crease. He burned this same Philadelphia team for 3 goals, a hat trick in the first meeting, just in that same spot.
We got John Conley going up against Jack Sebastian, the All-American defenseman from University of New Hampshire.
Ricky three, cuts across and couldn't quite handle it. Tries a behind-the-back shot. Getting back to the comment, Bill, about tempo. Tempo has worked in your favor for Philadelphia. Do you want to change that now and shoot earlier to get a better shot?
I think they need to. I think they can't sit back and play an outside game.
Shot comes in by Mueller and rockets off the pipe. Dallas Eliuk gets a little help there. Both goalies using those pipes. Detroit still in the offense. Mueller now comes in, pushes in the cylinder, but checked from behind, the ball loose. We'll take a break. 1-4. Philadelphia has got the plays hopping. Watch the follow-up shot by Chris Flynn to tie the game.
Yeah, what happened to set that play up? We missed it, but there was a Detroit player that hit the ball back to Teddy Sawicki. It just happened to hit a Philadelphia player. Not a good play right in front of your own goal. You don't do that.
So Chris Flynn ties the game at 10. You talked about the legs. You talked about the player and team speed. Bill, this is the fourth quarter, and this is where it'll start to show itself, if in fact it's going to be a factor. Terry Martinello with the ball. Rodriguez comes in for face-off specialist.
Well, Jacques Monty actually takes a face-off, Sleeve, and he's doing a fine job for Detroit tonight.
He's really worked himself into a sensational role there as face-off specialist.
Well, we got Teddy Sawicki out. We've got a delayed penalty here, so we got an extra man on the floor for the Turbos.
And Martinello comes in and takes not a great shot, but he hurries up the shot. They had a delayed situation, which means they had a chance to go ahead and set up any offense they wanted. Ronnie Martinello sort of hurrying that 6-on-5 advantage, but it still puts them in a power play position. It'll be 5 players, the full complement for Detroit, against 4 for Philadelphia. Now, this defensive unit for Philadelphia has been pretty strong all night long.
They've moved the ball real well, and I tell you, I'm looking to see if Paul is back on the field, so they've got both twin turbos here, Gary and Paul Gate. So we'll look for some fancy passing here.
Now the power play picked off beautifully. Ball goes to Eliuk. Now Gary Martin picks it up. Couldn't quite hit Tony Resch. McGeady goes down and puts pressure on Sawicki. Let's see what the call is. Too many men, that's the call, and they're going to put another player in the box for Philadelphia. This is going to put Detroit in a very enviable 5-on-3 situation. And does the pressure really get great on Dallas Eliuk?
Well, when you have Paul and Gary Gate out there on the floor, it's like having 2 Gretzkys, and now they're going to be 2 men up. So, and if I'm the goalie, I don't want that at all. I mean, I don't want to be playing 5-on-3.
And they'll be 2 men up for 1 minute and 47 seconds. This is really asking a lot out of your defense. The defense will be Ricky Freed up top, number 13. And below him will be DeSico, 25, and Gary Martin, 33. I would suspect they'll be trying to work some players in there if they get tired, like the great Tony Resch. And there's Eliuk right now. The pressure is on him. They need to get the ball and then burn up some of the clock. 5 against 3.
What's really surprising is Dan Pratt. I'll tell you, this is a coaching dream. He's got Dan Pratt all the way back playing defense just in case Detroit loses the ball and doesn't score. They'll cut off any Philadelphia break. He's not even in the extra man play.
Well, Mito Martinello likes to play it 4-on-3 rather, and that's what he's got right now. Ball saved by Eliuk. I was talking to Mito Martinello yesterday about that. He says he doesn't like the 5-on-3. He likes the 4-on-3. He likes a 2-on-1. He likes a 5-on-4. And the 5-on-3, he just as soon give it away and take the 4 against the 3, and that's what he's got right now. Tremendous athletes down there. This is Gary Gate off to the side. Ronnie Martinello, what a shooter. Pete Park down low. Ball knocked down and picked up by Ronnie. Gary Gate wide open, and he just misses the net.
Well, Mito Martinello might want to rethink his strategy. And Dallas Eliuk, boy, is he pleasing the fans with a lot of one-on-one saves.
Great saves, but they've got to take some pressure off him. Here comes again, 4-on-3. Park takes a shot, and another save. Eliuk just launches the ball down. The crowd very, very impressed with his play. What a little stretch for Eliuk.
Well, Gary Martin took off, and now it's well, Tony Resch comes in quickly, but those guys have been out there a while. They've got to be getting tired.
And that was a save earlier on by Eliuk. Here they come in close. Paul Gate snuff again, and this time he makes the score. How long can you keep him out of the net? Paul Gate put intense pressure on Eliuk and finally dents the net, but the crowd loves the defensive play. Standing ovation for this kind of save.
Well, we saw the first save, and again, you can't give him that second chance right on the crease. But the Wings did a great job playing man down with, again, 4 or 5 against 3, depending on how you look at it.
They just couldn't get the ball back in their stick. They saved, must have had a half a dozen saves. That was a goal for Paul Gate. And that's his second goal of the game. He scored his first goal way back in the first quarter with 3:58 left. That was the one that broke the record. He has been scoreless since then. He was shut out in the second. He was shut out in the third. So Philadelphia working some magical defense. Detroit now all open. Ronnie Martinello dishes in the park. He's by himself. A sliding Gabrielson came in, but credit that save to Eliuk again.
Well, if I'm on the Gary Gate, Paul Gate line, I tell you, I'm going to be tired after this game because they're out there a lot this evening, or this afternoon, actually.
It's 5-on-4 now. Again, a power play against Philadelphia. They've really dug a hole for themselves with the 2 penalties. And right now, it's still 5-on-4. Here comes the even-up man. Chris Flynn comes in, but Ronnie will still shoot man up. And Eliuk makes a huge save. There's Chris Flynn with the ball. He just came out of the box. Now the crowd rises to the occasion. That could have been a lot worse, Bill. They could have easily have scored 2 goals. You've got to give a little credit to that man down D. They did a job.
They did an excellent job, and we got a tie ball game.
Gabrielson rockets in a shot. And this ball game is tied at 11.
You know what happens, Leaf, is when Teddy's not playing and constantly being shot on, he relaxes, and then when they do come down again, they hit those corners on him. He's just not ready to make the move.
The Wings tied at 11. They've got 17,000 plus on their feet, and they're we'll pick out the action in the 4th quarter, and let's take a look at Pete Park putting in the 12th goal for Detroit. The defense was split. They made a mistake, Bill, and he was wide open.
Yeah, Brian Lemon helped set up that play. He came in and set a good pick for Peter Park, and he came in one-on-one.
I'll tell you, if I had to vote right now for the Coors Light MVP, it'd be this man right here, Dallas Eliuk. Sensational. Watch this save.
He made a beautiful save and then followed up with a second one that was just even more incredible than the first.
And that last shot was by Paul Gate. That's almost a gimme for a goal. I think Paul was a little bit cavalier on it. He was so sure that he had an open net. What a save by Dallas Eliuk right now, competing very heavily for Coors Light MVP honors. 13-11. Pat Lay just scoring another goal. And that's where we are, 13-11 with 6:54 left.
Yeah, but Pat scored that goal on a rebound after Dallas made another excellent one-on-one save.
So Philadelphia finding themselves now in a little bit of a crunch time situation. They look tired. Detroit now with a fast break. This is Mueller, dishes it back to the trailing man. And the trailing man coming up, helping out is Paul Brock from Western Ontario. Brock sets up the play. Martinello, Terry Variety to Ron, brother Ron. That check by Gary Martin is going to be a delayed 2-minute penalty. So just what Evans does not want. His team now has to stop a goal here. It'll be 5-on-4. They've already pulled the goalie, Detroit has, so they've got 5 offensive players, or 6 rather, against 5. And then if they fail here, they'll get an extra man opportunity.
Yeah, but what they also did, Leaf, was they changed the entire Detroit line except for Ron Martinello. They brought in the Gates. They brought in their power play team.
And to Philadelphia's credit, they turned away that offensive threat. Now, Gary Martin goes into the box for 2 minutes. 6 minutes left in the 4th quarter, in the game. Here's the penalty. Watch Gary Martin come in. Comes in with that cross check, and then he'll follow up to the head. That follow up to the head, Bill, that was the 2 minutes.
Yeah, and the reason that's a penalty, Leaf, is because he hit him in the head. I mean, you're allowed to cross check, you could slash, but again, above the shoulder in the face is not okay in this league.
Well, this man-down unit has been sensational, but this is asking a lot of them. They've been on the field a lot in the second half. Terry Martinello up top to Gary Gate. That's Ron Martinello. We've got 2 brother combinations out here. Gary takes a hard shot. Save. Tucker tries to get it. Can't come up with it. That could be deadly. Checking violation. They checked the stick while he was in the crease. You get a little bit of a provision of safety while you're inside that crease area around the goal. So now it'll be Philadelphia's ball. And with 5:38 left and 2 goals down, Bill, you kind of wish you could look on the sideline and see Brad Cox there for you.
You know, you're right, Leaf, but at the same time, you know who won that game in that 11-10 game against New England Blazers earlier on in the season was Todd Curry. So that's a guy that could score for you as well.
Curry has the ball right now and gets it all the way out to McGeady. They're trying to burn up the penalty, and they've got a little bit more left on it. 1:11, so they've got to do some running. McGeady takes 3 shots and dribbles it into the goal. That's not what he wanted to do. He couldn't find any help. He runs off. Fresh legs come on. DeSico will be the player. Detroit taking their time now. Ernie Freed playing against Ronnie Martinello. This is Terry. 54 left on the penalty. 4:55 in the game. Terry down to Paul Gate. Terry Martinello. We got to keep the Martinello the gate straight for you. Actually, that's Gary down low now. Paul usually plays that low position, and that's Gary. They've switched him. This is Paul up top. He'll trigger it. That'll be Ronnie right there. Takes a hard shot. Ronnie Martinello may put the clincher in. 14-11, a 3-goal lead for the Turbos with 4:37 left.
When you travel, stay where the stars of the Major Indoor Lacrosse League stay. In Worcester, Mass, the Clarion Suites. In New York, the Long Island Marriott. In Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Airport Hilton Inn. In Baltimore, the Sheraton Inner Harbor Hotel. In Pittsburgh, the Westin William Penn. And in Detroit, the Radisson Pontchartrain. All official hotels of the Major Indoor Lacrosse League.
Time 10 minutes, 23 seconds.
Replay of the goal by Ron Martinello.
I tell you, Ronnie's come in there, and they keep letting him come in close, and he's got one of the hardest shots in the league. Not the fastest guy in the team, but boy, when you give him a chance to shoot and set up, he can put it in.
Both the Martinello boys, sensational shooters. 14-11, a 3-goal lead for the Turbos. And now Philadelphia's really forced to make something happen. They've got to find an offensive threat. Elliott picks up the ball. He has been sensational, and what right now would be a losing cause. But Dallas Elliott has been really at the top of his game.
Well, you know who's been silent for a while, Leaf, is John Tucker. We haven't seen him out there, and I wonder if after that fight his shoulder's been bothering him.
Well, I'll tell you what, they weren't sure he'd even play. He's got a lot of guts even being out there. Todd Curry, not a great scorer in track. He's more of an outside man. He'll get by one guy in the field game. He's picked it up, the field or the box traffic kind of scoring. He's a sensational athlete. And here's where he's dangerous, up top. Big goal, and a nice save by Ted Sawicki. We got a delayed call, looks like. No, it's Elliott coming over. He's probably down, as you said, 7-8 pounds. He's over the sideline. Dallas Elliott is right now begging for water. He is very thirsty. Just to the right of your screen down there. And we've got, is that Doddridge again?
That's Neil Doddridge,
Neil Doddridge. I tell you, he takes a lot of pride in being the most penalized player in the league.
Well, coming into tonight's game, he had 19 minutes, and that was, again, only number 1 to Ron Martinello, who is number 2 in the league in penalty minutes, and I'm sure Neil is going to surpass everybody by the end of the season.
The scores are getting closer. These teams play the Turbos. That kind of penalty minutes can really end up killing you. Right now, for instance, with a 3-goal lead, you feel pretty good. But if Philadelphia scores here, that penalty doesn't look too smart. Nice save by Sawicki. It was Delegati coming in, getting the feed, and Sawicki takes his time. Jeff Goldberg here.
And Philadelphia did a nice job on that extra man. I mean, moving the ball inside, being patient. They got a great shot, but I think it was just an excellent save by Ted Sawicki.
Gapro's out here. They're going to burn up some of this time. Gary Martin trying to take it away. Double team coming. Mark Hahn trying to get in there. He's got good wheels. Checks it away. Oh, and John Tucker tried to flip it up to Gary Martin.
You know, this is when teams get in trouble against the Turbos, when they try to go against Paul and Gary, and they overextend themselves. When they do that, that's when Gary and Paul beat them, and here you go again.
Well, they got the ball last time. They just didn't pick it up. John Tucker tried that slap check to get it out front. Gary Gate just playing with the defense of Philadelphia. And a tackle by Lou Delegati. Literally tackling him about the 5-yard line.
It's not impossible, Leaf, but Philadelphia does have to get the ball back quickly to get back in this game.
Don't forget, this is a power play situation right here. 41 seconds left on it. They can't get possession. Paul Gate may score, and it's close. He's tough. beats two players, tries to get it to Terry Martinello. Philadelphia playing tough D. Watch out. Hard shot. And here goes Mark Hahn. He's got great wheels.
He is fast.
Speed. It's a one-on-one. Here comes a shot. He bounces in, and what a defensive save. Who was that defensive player from behind?
Brian Lemon.
Lemon really let it all go and barely caught him at the end. Couldn't have been better.
Well, luckily it was Brian Lemon because, again, he's one of the faster members of the Turbos.
You've seen him for many years, Bill. He's been on the indoor league for a while. There's a hard shot by Gary Martin. And with 1:35 left, it's not impossible. They only need 2 to tie, and that's what they'll be looking for. Face-offs becoming very critical. Timeout called by Philadelphia, but a big score by Gary Martin brings the Wings back to within 2. Timeout call by Dave Evans. Sensational play, and Martin is absolutely exhausted.
Well, we see the goal down here. He was tired, but I tell you, he didn't take off anything on this shot. And he moved Teddy from one side to the next. And I tell you, out of the 17,000 fans here, nobody is leaving.
Hard shot there. It just pings the corner. 1:35 left. They just need 2. Of course, the face-off, as I mentioned, very critical. Chris Flynn, the specialist, out on the field right now, keeping loose, keeping warm. Is he intense? Here's a good look at Gary Martin. Second goal of the night. Tremendous player. They've spread the offensive load out pretty evenly on the Philadelphia team.
Well, you know what's funny, Leaf, is I'm looking, Jacques Monty is going out to take the face-off, and I thought maybe it'd be Gary Gait in this case, but...
There's our next week's game. It's the Blazers at the Pittsburgh Bulls. They'll be in Pittsburgh, and that's our Prime Network game of the week as we continue our exclusive coverage on Prime Network. All the way down to the championship game. Philadelphia wants to be in there. They want to try for that three-peat. They've got to win their division first. This win would be very critical if they're going to follow that route. Chris Flynn in the gray. Monty, purple. Flynn comes up big. Now the ball goes to Resch. Crowd on their feet. 1:27 left, and they need 2. Tucker takes it. He'll quarterback the offense.
Well, Philadelphia pulled the goalie, Leaf, so they've got that extra attacker out there right now on the floor.
Conley looks like you heard the shot a little bit, Bill. He came down. I don't know if you knew that they had a man in transition.
I don't think so, but again, let's look to John Tucker to make something happen here.
It'll be 6-on-5. They pulled the goalie. Nobody's in the goal. Tucker right in the belly. Sawicki can score if he launches it down. Goldberg elects to take his time. Nobody in the goal.
Well, you know what's interesting is this shows a sign of maturity by a team. There was no goalie in there. They're taking their time. They're not going to throw it away.
A minute left. Timeout now called by Mito Martinello. He's got the ball. He's got a 2-goal lead. All he has to do is be smart. His players hold the ball. He's got himself win number 5. Good look at the bench. Ted Sawicki feeling a little confident now. A team with a 2-goal lead.
Yeah, they're
on their side.
Well, they're confident. I'm sure we're going to see Gary and Paul out on the floor. There's no question about it.
It is so impossible to take the ball from those 2 guys. Even with a double team, there's no guarantee that you'll get it. Mito Martinello barking out signals. He's got players all around him trying to figure out who are the players he wants to match up.
So, Leaf, you talked about Teddy Sawicki and how he'd play. What do you think?
How he played this whole game? You're asking me how Teddy Sawicki played?
Yeah.
Yeah, sensational player. I mean, first team All-Pro. He had that lull in the second quarter where he was a little bit off. It was hard to really see what his problem was, but he came right back and gave it a great second half.
Well, you know, he gave up a lot of goals last week against New York, but
shots on goal, you saw that stat. A lot of shots in this game. Now, the challenge to Philadelphia.
Well, that's All-Pro John Tucker trying to take the ball from I think a next All-Pro Paul Gait.
So the story in the goal again is Sawicki and Eliud going the full way, going all the way, 4 quarters, 33 seconds left. You see the clock right there. That's in the game. And 2 goals needed for Philadelphia. They call their last timeout. Evans gets his players to the sideline. There's the bench of Philadelphia. They've got to get one quick, get the face-off, and then score 1 to tie. So, again, we talked about Sawicki playing a really great game in the goal. He had that little bit of a lull. And, of course, Eliud started off pretty slow in the first quarter. They traded quarters of of being a little bit on the cold side, but they overall have been very, very hot. A lot of offense applied by both teams.
Right.
Very active day for these goalies. It wasn't like easy shots.
Both goalies played well, and they both deserve to be an MVP of this game. I'll tell you, they both played well. It'll be interesting to see right now. I would imagine that Dave Evans is calling a play for a quick pick off the crease. This is my guess. And a guy taking the pass close on and shooting right away, because they've got to take a shot right away.
There's a good look at Eliuk. He's had a sensational day from Vancouver, British Columbia. Now he's out of the game. They pulled him at 6:05. All the stops now. Dave Evans using all of his arsenal. He'll have 6 offensive players, nobody in the goal. Curry brings it up. Clock counting down. That's the game clock. Curry has the ball. Took his eye off it. Lost possession. This will be it. Ball kicked out, and Rodriguez will slam dunk this one home. He's got Goldberg out in front. He wheels around, nobody in the goal, takes his time, one fake, and a great save by Ricky Free. Doesn't really matter because they need 2 goals to tie. Ball comes down. Tucker will not even get a shot off. Feeds the crease. Back into a cutting player, but not enough, as Paul Denikin was the last one. And that'll do it. 14-12. The Turbos really held on when Philadelphia put intense pressure on them. They score the last 3 goals of the game, and they win a very tough game, 14-12. And what a game it was from the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Everything we thought it would be. The Philadelphia Wings, 2-time defending champions, holding off for as long as they could. But there was the Detroit Turbos with that awesome offense led by the Gate brothers. And of course, 3 records were up for grabs. 3 records fell. Gary Gate got the most assists record. He took that one. He also took the Coors Light Player of the Game award. 3 goals, 3 assists with action like this. 6 points on the night. Gary Gate, most times unstoppable. Let's take a look at this outlet pass from Ted Sawicki, and then it's a fast break with Gary Gate breathing down the neck of Dallas Eliuk. One fake, puts it in. He had 3 goals for the night. That was one of them. And our Bill Barroza is down with the Coors Light MVP, Gary Gate, right now.
Gary, congratulations on a terrific win. Close game. It was 7-5 at halftime. And, I mean, did you ever worry that you weren't going to win tonight?
Oh, we certainly knew there was a tough team, especially in Philadelphia. You know, they're a great team, and they got great fans here that really back them up and support them. And obviously, they haven't lost here at home until tonight, so we definitely knew that it was going to be a tough game and a close one.
Well, between you and Paul, you broke a lot of records tonight. You had 3 and 3. You broke the assist record. A fantastic achievement. One thing I saw is Paul got in a fight, and you ran to his side. You were the first one down there. What were you thinking about?
Oh, well, anytime one of your own players gets in a fight, you always got to be there to back him up. You know, you never let one of your own players get hurt. And, you know, as people saw, Paul did pretty well and did a good job out there, and there was no need for me to come in.
Well, let me ask you, after last week's upset win by the New York Saints, I mean, were you guys thinking that, geez, we could come into the Spectrum and maybe not play as well as we're capable of?
We know we can play well when we put our minds into it, and I don't think we played as well as we can tonight. And, you know, we got a lot of work to do, and we got, you know, a few games coming up, and, you know, hopefully we'll get that first place and get in that final game, and that's what we're striving for. And we realize that we didn't play great tonight, but a win's a win.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. Did the fans make a difference in keeping the game close for a while?
Personally, I enjoy the fans when they get on your back. It just gives you a little more to get up and get after them and, you know, try and quiet them down. You know, it adds a lot of excitement to the game.
Well, Gary Gate, Coors Light MVP for the 14-12 victory over the Philadelphia Wings today at the Spectrum. And let me send it back up to Leif Elsmo.
Thank you very much, Bill Barroza. Here are those records we talked about. All of them were broken. It was Paul Gate overcoming Brad Kotz for most goals. It was Paul and Gary both overtaking Brad Kotz for total points. And Gary overcame John Tucker for most assists. It was a sensational game with the best of this year against the best of last year. We'll be back with our final comments from the Spectrum.